journey. We have partners across the globe. If your company has satellite offices overseas. Currently, we have 16 offices serving clients in 40 states as well as abroad, as I mentioned. Our company does about 200 million plus in revenue, and we have about 1,200 consultants across the globe. Specifically, I want to talk a little bit about our offerings for Agile and for SAFE. One of the things that differentiates our Agile group is our focus on coaching. We can provide coaching services at the executive level, across the enterprise, the program, the team. We even have technical coaches that will help you move towards a CI/CD and really put in place the foundational technical elements that will allow you to succeed with Agile at scale. From a training perspective, we have in-house trainers that can do leadership training, technical training, SAFE training. If you need SPC certification or any of the other SAFE certifications, we can assist. We also offer the Scrum Alliance certifications. And one of our great differentiators is the IC Agile track. As you transform your organization and you want that internal understanding of coaching, we actually can offer the IC Agile coaching and facilitation courses. Finally, we have a lot of experience doing advisory, health checks, assessments, like that, to understand what's involved in your particular organization and how we can help you accelerate and sustain your journey to Agile or SAFE. This slide really talks about some of our clients. We have some very premier clients across the New England seaboard, as well as out into the Midwest and Southwest. Fidelity, Fannie Mae, Capital One, they're all using scaled Agile. Some great implementations out there. We've got enterprise at scale with some other large organizations, as you can see here, State Street. Lots of great stuff we're doing here. I personally am involved with Fidelity primarily, with also some work with Capital One right now, and I can tell you that you know, it's really awesome being able to take a coaching approach and really helping them build the capabilities internally to sustain this on their own with the support of Eliassen. Finally, when we come to our SAFE offerings, we are a gold partner. Very excited about that. A couple of things we can offer. SAFE readiness assessments, where we actually go out there into the field with your company and understand kind of where you are on your Agile journey, or if you haven't started it yet. If you've already implemented scaled Agile, we can do a health check to help identify some of the areas where there may be opportunity, as well as preparing you for SAFE 4.0. We have our Agile group partners with our larger staffing organization to be able to staff RTEs, Scrum Masters, whoever you need to help move your transformation forward. We offer the consulting and coaching and transformation services, as well as the SAFE certified training I mentioned earlier. I'm rushing through this just a little bit because I know you want to get to the good stuff with SAFE 4.0. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dean, and he'll take you through what's new in SAFE 4.0.
Thanks, Phil. Can you see my screen okay?
Sure can.
That's great. So thanks to Eliassen Group for giving me the opportunity to speak to this audience today. We're pretty excited about SAFE 4.0 because it really brings us forward to kind of the next generation, I think, of lean Agile development at scale. My challenge today is to give you an overview. I'm going to give you that overview at about the the 40,000 foot level, looking at some of the larger changes. And the reason I'm comfortable doing that is that SAFE is online, so you don't need me to learn about 4.0. You can go right there. There's actually a What's New in SAFE 4.0 guidance article, so it goes into more depth about some of the things I'm going to talk about. And then, of course, you can figure out what's new by just navigating SAFE. And if you're new to SAFE, what's new is not that not that relevant. It's kind of all new. But if you're a 3.0 client, I think that's a pretty important perspective, and I'm going to be able to talk about that perspective as well today for sure. So I'll provide a very brief overview of SAFE in general. Excuse me, still recovering from some winter crud. I'll describe the program and team level changes. Basically, every level of SAFE was changed here. Honestly, this is a bigger batch size than we're used to. We've typically done, smaller batch size, more frequent releases. But as people start to tie into SAFE and build their, build their enterprise change vectors and build their application development models around SAFE, we have to be a little bit more careful. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can continue to innovate without kind of shaking the tree of the big picture. We'll talk about the new value stream level. For those of you who have listening online that maybe have 50, 100, or a couple hundred IT practitioners, maybe ISVs or a SaaS company, this may or may not be of interest to you. For those of you who are building really big systems, especially if you're building anything with high assurance mandates, high reliability, governance requirements, legal industry standards for compliance, Sarbanes-Oxley, traceability, FDA requirements, etc. We're going to need to talk more than just about the program level, and we'll talk about the large value streams. And we'll talk about managing large portfolios, because that's one of the things that we've come to understand, is that an instance of SAFE seems to handle about a business unit level, but we didn't design SAFE to say, okay, if you're a big shop with 20,000 IT workers worldwide, you get one instance of SAFE and you have to capture every value stream and do all your budgeting for there. So I'll describe that a little bit, talk about some of the business results and some of the next steps. So let's just get in. Let's look at SAFE.0 as SAFE 1.0 overview. Well, some things haven't changed. What we purport to do, what we achieve some success at, is providing knowledge for people building the world's most important systems. In order to do that, we provide a freely revealed knowledge base of proven success patterns for implementing lean agile development at enterprise scale. Now that's quite a mouthful. What does it really mean? It really means that for over a decade now, I and the team I've been working with, and folks like Phil at his former employment and in his current employment, have been working in the industry to see as enterprises adopt agile and lean thinking, and they start growing their capability to improve their time to market, faster delivery, higher quality. How did they do that? Well, some of those things we know, certain proven success patterns like Scrum, ubiquitous at the team level. Other things we know, we think about lean thinking, we think about managing the flow of value through the system, we think about visualizing work. So SAFE brings that together into a single knowledge base. Now that knowledge base is clickable, and we're in a really weird spot in the industry now where some people have adopted SAFE and going, well, we like SAFE, and one person the other day said, oh, you can click on that icon? So I was kind of shocked by that. But this is an interactive knowledge base. It's there for you to read. If you want to know more about any one item you click, you'll get a story, you'll get a well-formed abstract, you'll get some details about that, typically a few graphics. I'm a visual learner, so even though I write in text a lot, I typically express the things that I need to express most clearly graphically. So you'll see a few figures, a lot of those figures wrap into courseware, etc. And then you'll see learn more. So maybe you want to know more about product development flow, so it'll be a link to Reinerson's, or maybe you want to know more about Kanban, link to David Anderson's books as well. And you can see here our history. We've been at this, it seems forever, but I guess not so long. Prior to 2011, SAFE wasn't SAFE. It was a scaled agile development method, or it was a scaled agile model. It hadn't really been named yet. It was just my blog. And in my blog, I could informally draw a PowerPoint picture, kind of not as hopefully nicely rendered as we currently have, opine about something that I'd learned, and get feedback. And so perhaps, I have no way to know, of course, but somewhere on the order of 5 or 10,000 comments later, 5 or 10,000 field experiences later, we moved from version 1 to version 2 to version 3 to version 4. Now, one important element here is that we did a branch a year and a half ago into SAFE for Lean Systems Engineering. That's called SAFE LSE. Any of you, that are very interested in lean agile development at scale, to build things that go bump in the night, satellites or robots or medical instruments, stuff that moves, that has electrical and mechanical parts. You may have found your way to LSE, and that was a great sandbox. We didn't certify in that. We simply made the knowledge base available for people and had the courseware available to the SPC equivalents that were headed down that path. In version 4, we integrated that. So there is only one framework now. It's version 4, and it combines the best of version 3, all the things that we had learned in the software domain after version 3, and then the lean systems engineering thread, which was, frankly, a horse of a different color, and we merged that into version 4. When we created version 4, we also said, it's mostly software. Software is eating the world, and softwares are eating the systems, but it's not entirely software. Some of these big electromechanical devices have long lead times. I might be building a Kanban or a piece of medical equipment that requires a mold. So can I be agile and do that? Or because the mold takes a long time and because the cost of change is very high, if I get the mold wrong, maybe I need to go back to traditional models and traditional methods. Well, we don't think so. We think that we've learned so much in lean engineering and agile software development that we can, make an offering now that says this can handle both cases. And indeed it does. And we have good experience now building things like medical equipment, like satellites, like various really large systems, things that go bump in the night, things that don't, routers that have, sophisticated electronics with ASICs in them, and then the software that runs the router. We see it all the same, and the reason is the principles are the same, and I will talk about those in a second. So you see a new diagram on the left. Kind of what's our rule base? Our rule base has been, it's one picture, okay? Fits on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. So this was one of those aha moments some decades ago that said, okay, we can have multiple views, and I'll admit here you're going to see more than one view here, but we really only want one instance of SAFe. We don't want SAFe for this and SAFe for that and SAFe for medical equipment and SAFe for small shops and SAFe for big shops. So we gave ourselves a pattern of exactly one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, a single PowerPoint slide, realistically is how we built that. And that gave us a GUI. And if you think about any kind of software engineering process model, there's lots of stuff there, for sure, but if you take away the GUI and you say, what's SAFe, what do? I take you through a table of contents? I mean, it's pretty hard to understand what there is. So what is the big picture for those of you who are, systems architects and modelers? It's a domain model and a UI for the content behind it. So when we put a face on it, people could look at it and they could argue with it. They could say, I don't like X. And we'd go, well, let's talk about X. And we might argue and say, we think X is pretty cool. And they say, we think it isn't. Or we might say, you make up a really good point. Maybe the next version of this, it could become Y. We take positions on things. Obviously, in implementing in your environment, there's a lot of depends, right? In a sense, everything depends. But we've got to do better as an industry than giving you a giant box of depends, so to speak, and say, hey, figure it out. So we opine on things like the product owner is part of the team. We'd really rather have them reporting into development. Do they have to? No, they may indeed come from marketing. They may be VAs, but what team are they on? Well, we think the team they're on needs to be the Agile team. That's an opinion. You can't call it a fact, it's an opinion. So we opine on those things. We opine on labels and names for the customer and solution management and release train engineering. We do that in order to be able to advance the science. But the core values are unchanged. Built-in quality, program execution, alignment, and transparency. Built-in quality, why? Because you can't scale crappy code. End of story. Program execution, why? Because that's the problem we're trying to solve. Really large programs are tough. When I teach class, I'll ask folks, who's involved right now in a really big initiative? 2/3 of the hands will go up, and I say, leave your hand up if it's going really well. Well, you can imagine how many hands go down, and typically there's 1 or 2 remaining, and I'll ask that guy, I'll say, congratulations, and he goes, well, we just started the program. And we achieved that with alignment and transparency, but I'm diving a little too deep, so I need to keep going. Now, what you see here is a slightly different rendering. You see 3-level SAFe. What do we mean by that? We mean that the value stream level is optional. It's important and it's critical for some but not all of you. And for those of you who don't need it all, you don't want to be looking to a model that has it all. And that means that the collapse has to work. So the relationships amongst the artifacts, for example, the Kanban systems, you have to be able to work with or without the value stream level depending on implementation, and that's great. And we'll spend most of our time on this level, the 3-level SAFe, and then I'll describe what happens when you hit the expand button, and the fun begins for building larger and high assurance systems. So you see a lot of common things here, and one of the most important things, and the point I want to make right now, is that many enterprises are doing extremely well with SAFe. I mean, I would not have predicted the level of benefit, increase in productivity and quality that they're achieving by really a process model change. But they're getting those benefits, and we want to continue to do that. And if they're in flight, one of our enterprises I just visited already trained 1,200 SAFe practitioners. They had, I think, 30 SPCs on site. They're making great progress. Is there more to be done? Absolutely. That's why we're there. But they weren't particularly interested in saying, well, you've changed this on us because now we have to rethink or retrain. Well, no, you really don't. All the features on the left, every single one, Agile release trains, value streams, the release object, program PI objectives, they're on the right too. So 3-level SAFe 4.0 is a superset of SAFe 3. So if you're engaged in a SAFe 3 evolution or implementation right now, you're still good to go. Also, for those of you who are really tied in nicely to SAFe 3, and maybe you've built your wikis around it and you've got pointers, the SAFe 3 website is still available. It's at v3.scaledagilepFramework.com. So you can use that site. That's basically, that revision is frozen now. The courseware is supported as well. So folks like Phil here can teach either SAFe 3 or SAFe 4 courses. In order to teach SAFe 4 courses, he has to be SAFe 4 certified. But he is, as are others with Eliassen, and that gives you some comfort that no matter which version you're working with. However, I'll also tell you, go ahead and move. And the reason is that we put a new investment in SAFe version 4, which means that's where the active log is. I just, for example, rewrote CapEx and OpEx. Well, we're not going to port that back to SAFe 3. So move anyway, and just get used to the paradigm, because all your features are the same, and it shouldn't be any disruption at all, just to say, hey, and by the way, if you use the link to product management, you still do. So if you've built a system around SAFe, your links are preserved and you're good to go anyway. So what's new? Fair question. One thing that's new is what we call the foundation layer. And this addresses a problem that we were struggling with for some time, which is that as we evolved our core values, these aren't new, well, we had to express them someplace, so they were in a guidance article. Well, heads up, we have lots of good guidance articles, but people don't seem to find their way to them. So we talk about core values, and they say, where's that in SAFe? We've talked about the Lean Agile mindset for some time, the manifesto and the House of Lean, and we had that on the big picture, but that's not part of the delivery model. That's really a backdrop. SAFe principles I'll talk about briefly, how you implement SAFe, new things like communities of practice, what happens when you pivot to a value-driven organization. You pivot typically horizontally across the vertical silos. And what I mean by that is that devs and testers and folks in deployment and product management and program office work together on a horizontal value stream. Well, what happened to my devs? Now they're working with testers and POs. What about all those other devs over there? Well, that's what the community of practice is for. This really unbinds us from showing things on the big picture. They're not delivery model items. If you think about the big picture, it's designed to illustrate and to model a significant scale delivery effort. This isn't about delivery. This is about getting your mind right, having a common belief system, etc. So we can have not only these things incorporated directly in SAFe, but we also have room for future things. So imagine a version of this someday where we opine a bit on organizational change management with the specific link to OCM with respect to SAFe. What evolve, what direction they evolve, what you as leaders could do. That's a great area of interest. Well, where would I put that? A white paper on the side? Well, it'll appear here. So imagine some version 5, version 4. Now, I moved ahead kind of quickly here, but I'm going to go back one. By the way, for those of you who have done this, staring at your monitor and feeling like you're getting feedback, it's not a fun way to make presentations. I can't make any eye contact. Up until my dog died, he used to be here with me, and I'd say, hey, Buster, did I make a good point? And he'd look at me knowingly, and I'd have really good feedback. It's pretty hard when you're staring at your own screen. But if there's a version 4, what's the probability of a version 5? You tell me. Incorporated right there is a lean agile mindset. This has always been true, but these mindsets scale. As a matter of fact, you can't scale without them. We don't go in and say, for example, that agile is cool for small teams. They favor individuals and interactions over processes and tools, but we actually don't. When we scale, we're going to lean towards the processes and tools. Not true. When we scale, we're going to lean towards, for example, PI planning, face-to-face big room planning. When we scale, we're not going to lean towards documentation and say, I have a great traceability matrix and an excellent patent document for a system that doesn't work. We're not going to do that either. When we scale, we don't have models of working where the customer isn't part of the value stream. And when we scale, yeah, responding to changeover following a plan, but don't you have to have a plan to do that? Not to mention the lean mindset, which is its own body of knowledge. I can't really dwell too deep into that, but it's based upon leadership. Agile is based, the foundation is teams, the foundation of lean is leadership. Respect for people and culture, product development flow, innovation. We're involved in an innovation spike right now it's freaking some of our people out because we just released 4.0, but we have some new stuff to talk about. And that's part of our relentless improvement. And I think that one of the things that we can be proud of as a business is that we work very hard every day on Safe in the Course, where every time I teach the course, I rev the course and include new things. Now, these aren't really, quote, new either, but they kind of are, because when we launched version 3, these didn't exist. We were leaning on the House of Lean and the Agile Manifesto. There is a body of work. But now when you say, okay, we are a company and we build a geophysical data collection satellite. Guess what? It's not just a satellite. It's a satellite with all those complexities. It's a ground station that communicates with the satellite, and it's a web service farm. And that web service farm delivers that data real-time data to users of a variety of types. So if we think about that, we think about, can I do that in a lean agile manner? That satellite, that's a fixed date. I'm going to launch that. Okay, I need to back up and know every requirement for the satellite because I'm going to launch it in December and have to know exactly what it does. Well, we think not, and we think that these principles that we worked on with systems developers for over a year that finally boiled down to 9 are still critical. And I'm spending 5 minutes here because I always do and always will. If in your transformation, if you're trying to get the business benefits of lean, agile, and scale, there's more than one way to do that. You can certainly use our model. That's why you're here, is you have some interest in that model. It delivers good benefits, but it's a set of practices. And when you read the practice, there's a practice that says, okay, we do face-to-face PI planning. What's the principle behind it? Well, it's actually a manifesto principle. When you read a practice that says we want to take a small amount of work into a small time box and commit to that work, well, what's the philosophy there? The philosophy there is to make small commitments and get fast feedback. So the 9 principles are to take an economic view, to apply systems thinking, imagine systems thinking at that satellite level, assume variability and preserve options, build incrementally with fast integrated learning cycles. Oh, for my satellite? Yes. Can I integrate every day? No. Can I do continuous integration of my electronic circuit board for this new radio in a car? No. I've branched it. I've got 5 different versions of that board, but I want to get fast integrated feedback. Base milestones on objective evaluation of working systems. Not design complete. You know what? If you get a chance, read The Lean Machine, the Harley-Davidson story, a great fun book. When is design complete for Harley-Davidson? A piece of paper 8 months before shipment? No, I don't think so. I think it's after you've taken it for a couple test rides and probably, thrown your wife on the back and ridden it across town, and you come back and say, that is a great Harley, write it up. Okay? Visualize and limit width, reduce batch sizes, and manage queue lengths. That's quite a story unto itself. That's essentially a concatenation or a synthesis of what is developed in the area of product development flow, the work of Reinertz and Ward and others, a great body of knowledge. Apply cadence and synchronize with cross-domain planning. Your world is uncertain. Things change. Technology change. People get the flu. Some of your designs don't work. Some of your suppliers don't deliver what they said they were going to deliver. Some of your own solutions don't scale. So how are we going to work? How are we going to address that? We're going to apply cadence and synchronization at all times. We're going to use cross-domain planning to synchronize all those extra aspects. Our people come to work motivated. You know, I've been a manager, well, for as long as I can remember. Kind of started out as when I started my first company when I was in my 20s. And what I've come to understand is that we employ a really unique set of individuals, knowledge workers, people that know more about their work than I possibly could. They're closer to it. They have equal or greater IQs. I can't manage them. I really can't. I can lead them. I can help them. I can coach them. But my job is to unlock the intrinsic motivation. As a manager, there's about 30 things I can do to my knowledge workers, 27 of which are demotivating. And the last one, decentralized decision making, is a key tenet of Lean. If I could look you in the eye, I would ask you why, and we would get some answers. And the answer is very simple, because otherwise you can't go fast, right? Every delayed decision is a deferred decision, is a cost of delay item. Okay, let's look a little more hard-nosed view at what's actually different than the philosophies. The program level has been evolved, and there's a couple of specific areas that I think are neat and unique and important. And this is one, the Kanban system here. Now, SAFE is a framework, and as such, there's many positives and negatives. It's not a rule base. It's not a policy. Thou shalt always do A. And in former versions of SAFE, there was just a backlog here. Well, these features get pretty big because there might be 8 or 10 teams that are going to do the work down here. Well, how did a feature get to the backlog? Well, we didn't opine on that. And I heard people say things like, well, you don't use a Kanban system to get your features ready because SAFE doesn't support that. Well, we didn't call it out explicitly, but goodness, folks, think. If that helps you have good backlog readiness such that you have a higher probability of delivering those features reliably within a PI, add one. Well, we did. Okay? We've added milestones up here. I can't go into a deep discussion about that, but milestones do matter. Objective milestones, minimum valuable product, milestones designed non-financial accounting measures, you know, usage, stickiness, repeat visits, number of times a new feature was used, etc. Additional guidance for program execution. Vision and roadmap has been updated and tied nicely into the milestones so that your roadmap now will start to look at things from a perspective of milestones, not just, you know, they were never really arbitrary things, arbitrary features, but stuff that matters should appear on the roadmap, nicely integrated. And then I'm not showing the value stream context here, but I will. Okay, well, what if I'm using 3-level SAFE, but I really want to understand solution intent? Can I have them? Well, of course you can. It's a framework. You know, use the elements you need. New person over here, the customer. The customer was always in Agile, but you know what? Hey, we got some criticisms that said the customer isn't on the big picture. And I said, well, you're right. Isn't that implied? But B, we start seeing issues where people want to adopt Lean and Agile development, and let's just say it's an IT shop, but the business owners don't realize it's different for them too. And they don't realize that the combination of Lean, Agile budgeting and this fast feedback creates different requirements on them. So when we didn't have them here, we couldn't talk about them. Well, now we have them, and we can talk about their responsibilities. If we're going to embark on a Lean, Agile paradigm, we don't leave these folks out, right? They are integral to the value stream. And by the way, that's the way a value stream is defined. The value stream doesn't stop when we dump the solution to the customer. It's deployed and delivered and evaluated in the customer context. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the value stream level because it's a slightly deeper construct there. Everything else you see here, you recognize. A few design ideas just made it clear, right? The critical roles, things you have to have, business owners, PI objectives, Kanban system, and then we turn this into a spanning palette, and I'll talk about that in a second. All it means is that I could have milestones here, I could have milestones at the team level, I could have milestones at the value stream level, I could have milestones at the portfolio level, no worries. But if I start drawing a milestone at every level, and number one, it clears the crap out of things, and everybody goes, well, We're not done yet because we haven't done our portfolio milestones. That's not the point. The same goes for vision and roadmap and other things. Enablers. What the heck is an enabler? Well, SAFe 3.0, I guess this is a difference. Frankly, there is a small impedance difference between 3.0 and 4.0. These were architectural features and architectural ethics in 3. What are they really? The important work that enable value delivery. And let's look at the, well, just look at the bottom tab here and talk about this one. What are they typically? Exploration. What if I want to do a spike? What if defining the requirements, let me say the dreaded word requirements here, what if the defining requirements for the interface between my satellite, which I can't possibly draw with this pen, and the ground station, which I also can't draw, what if specifying that interface was absolutely critical? It probably is, right? Okay, if it emerges and emerges on both ends, I'm going to be wagging the dog, the tail of the dog is going to wag. I'm going to have some specificity about that. So maybe I should spend some time doing requirements exploration for that interface. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that practical? Does that mean that we're waterfalling the system because I said the word requirements? It's like saying Voldemort. No, it means that there are places where knowing what we're building with a high degree of precision matters, and there are places where it matters a lot less. What about architecture? Is it okay to design this thing? We'll design emerges. Okay. Maybe there's 40 teams building the satellite and the ground station. How does it emerge? There's probably a bunch of stuff that could be either on the ground station or the web form. Where does it go? Are we going to do it twice? If we do it twice, we can use the same component. We're going to build it as a web service so that both the ground station and the web farm could navigate to it. Pretty important. And what about infrastructure? Every one of you right now is looking at infrastructure that is not as good as it could be or should be to support rapid iterations and rapid development, right? Not just at the 2-week level, but we'd like to integrate every day where we can, at least in our software assets. We all struggle from a lack of infrastructure. Well, who's going to work on it? There's no infrastructure genies that are going to come in from some other program and fix my Hudson implementation, right? Or roll out a new configuration management solution, or teach me how to do TDD and then do my TDD. We got to do that work ourselves, our own skill sets. Why do we have to call these out? Because all work has to be visible, period. This is a lean system. We're depending upon the visibility of work to be able to assure flow. We're depending upon the visibility of work to be able to understand where the bottlenecks are. We're depending on where the bottlenecks are so that we can resource bottlenecks, use our key skills to shift people to various types of work as needed to increase throughput. So if we don't have it visible, it totally confuses the system, and more importantly, it doesn't happen. We never really did that. We never installed Hudson. We never got around to it. We never migrated to a single version of JBoss because the work wasn't visible. So it has to be visible, and we see those enablers everywhere. It's a simple construct, right? Stories, features, capabilities, haven't talked about that. They're all enabled by certain types of activities. So that's a material change to SAFe, and I think one that, frankly, harmonizes the views. We don't need a different label for that. They're just enablers. I could have a portfolio enabler that said, I'm going to do a giant spike to move everybody to 64-bit servers, okay? Or I could have a team-level enabler that said, hey, I need to refactor that module that I built because, frankly, I never really liked it, and it's going to be a real maintenance nightmare unless I fix it now. So enablers are new. I already talked about the program Kanban a little bit, and for those of you who are familiar with Kanbans, one thing you know about is they're fully custom. And we could have said, build a fully custom Kanban system. In a sense, we do. But we also said, it's pretty easy to think about features coming into the funnel, just like the portfolio. We need to be careful about the analysis that we do because we want to do a good job of analysis on that feature. I mean, we may want to implement there. And we maybe want to have WIP limit a backlog because what is good is it doing analysis for this stuff here? I've invested in the analysis, but I can't even do the work. And implementing it done. These don't have to be your states, right? We don't tool any of this, so you can tool it however you want. On the other hand, do you really want to open a book that says, apply Kanban here, Kanban is cool? No, you need additional guidance, and that's the guidance that we provide. The team level, some changes there as well. We love Agile teams. I actually learned XP first, 2001. I met some XP people. I was working with them in an environment, and frankly, I was blown away by the discipline, peer review, pair work, not always pair programming, but pairing, collective ownership, coding standards. They're really, really strong on coding standards. Gosh, I thought we were down and dirty and fast. We're extreme. Yeah, we're extremely disciplined about creating great code. Became enamored with that. Actually took Schwaber's Scrum class and saw something cool. But I didn't see two different worlds. I saw one. I saw a project management practice largely with some unique roles that had never been expressed before. I think a piece of genius that basically said, let's have a management proxy that can kind of run the show so we can be self-organizing, and let's have a content authority. I looked at that and said, well, should I then not have collective ownership and continuous integration and peer review and test? Oh, come on, I should have it all. And Kanban, kind of the newer baby out there. Kanban says visualize your work and start to tune and adjust. Does that mean, okay, please don't have a daily stand-up because that's in Scrum? Please don't have a product owner because that's part of Scrum? I don't think so. So I think we're beyond the days, I believe, of Scrum v Kanban v XP, aren't we? Aren't we at a day now that says it's all good? Can any team in the year 2016, can't any team know how to run an effective process for their team, how to visualize flow, and how to do great software practices? I think they can. And that gives a new degree of flexibility. Now, it's not perfect autonomy. Why? We're building a big system. Some things matter. If I'm going to run a Kanban model here, that's great. Does that mean I don't have to integrate every 2 weeks? No, actually, you still integrate every 2 weeks. Does it mean that I'm running Kanban perfectly flow, so when I get to the PI, that's not really relevant to me because I have a flow-based system? No, it's relative to the whole group. We're going to inspect and adapt together. We're going to work together. We're going to get everybody together. All of us are going to get together. We're going to look at what we're doing. We're going to look at our system. We're going to evaluate it. So it just allows flexibility and capability within a certain degree of a certain set of constraints. Now, what if you're building that satellite? Or I'm just going to pick a medical device today. Okay? Boom, we hit expand and we come up with a new value stream level. And there are many constructs here, but let me just see if I can describe the intent. An economic framework appears here. I'm not going to talk about it today. It's a brand new element. Does that mean that if I collapse this system, which I can't do here, you don't operate within that economic framework? No, it means that we chose to describe that here because this is a bigger system and it's more critical. So all of the things that are described here can be inherited or used anywhere else. So I could easily have solution intent. Let's talk about that medical device. Okay, I think I have a slide for that. I'll come to solution intent in a second. I'll come back to the slide to larger presentation in a second. If I'm building a medical device, is it not true that I have to know exactly what the system does now? Can it be I threw away the stories and we're fine and it's really behaving fine? Or is it likely that story got edited, updated, right? Acceptance criteria got attached, test case got attached to that. That all got integrated and documented, hopefully in an automated tool. Maybe this is all in my ALM tool. Maybe the results are in Test Manager or whatever. So I have to know what that system does, period. And I have to have some ideas about what's going to happen next. And basically this evolution of future to current is the way we think about it. And for some of us, this isn't optional. We may think there's a lot of overhead and traceability, and you can argue about the risk reward until heck freezes over. But the reality is if you have to do it, you have to do it. So the value stream level gives us the opportunity to talk differently about a new set of things like solution intent and how we move from variable to fixed. In the end, we have to know what the Harley-Davidson does. But early on, the exact amount of torque the drive belt needs to be able to support is unclear. I've got a new motor, it's a little more efficient. What is its torque characteristic compared to the old one? Not exactly sure. How is the drive belt going to respond to that? Well, I've got to do set-based development to move from variable to fixed, but in the end, everything's fixed, and that's solution intent. I belabored that one not to slow us down today, but just to make the point that each of these new elements is a pretty meaningful discussion about things like pre and post planning, how we align multiple art value streams. So at this level, establish governance, build big solutions, manage fixed and variable solution intent, manage the flow of capabilities, the new word, that's just the word that we describe at a high level of abstraction to the solution, the value stream solution. And of course, we apply cadence and synchronization. And on we go. I've never been completely comfortable with the fact that within SAFe 3 and the earlier versions, the solution was implicit rather than explicit. Now it's explicit. Now we can talk about it. We can talk about what the solution is and its environment. Maybe I am this little mouse I have in my hand. Does it operate? My mouse is my solution. Oh, actually, no. It operates in the context of my environment. In this case, it's my laptop. They're integral to each other. There is no mouse that's effective without its laptop. So the solution and its environment is a form of systems thinking. It's not about the mouse. It's about the mouse in its environment. Now, I trivialize that with the mouse example, but imagine that notion at the next higher level. And I mentioned briefly capabilities, and when we decided to throw in the towel, if you will, and support 4-level SAFe, we needed a word so that we didn't have to talk about big features and little features. By the way, we tried that. So if you go back to LSE version 1, that's what we tried. Completely confusing. So we asked the systems builders, okay, if we're going to extend the requirements model here for stuff, what do you think of? Well, when we talk to our customers, we talk about capabilities, right? Even a feature is a relatively small thing. So what's the capability of this new satellite? Oh, this one has 4 times the resolution. That's a pretty cool capability. What about delivering that data? Well, we're going to deliver 4 times the resolution. That's fine. And by the way, we're going to be able to do that in 10% less time than we used to be able to do that all the way through the ground station and the web form. Okay, those are new capabilities. 10% faster, 4 times the optical density. So we use that word, right? And they behave like features, but at a higher level of abstraction. And by the way, we want to stay incremental, right? They're big items, but we want to get them done in a PI. How do we get them done? We split them into features. That's the new term for capabilities. I already covered solution intent a little bit out of order, but it seemed natural at the time. Customers. Well, guess what? We need them. And they have responsibilities that they didn't used to have. And let's just say, let's go to the end case. Let's go to a big custom-built solution. Okay, custom-built solution. We need them. They're involved in fixed versus variable solution intent. What do you mean by that? It means we're going to talk about this stuff that the system has to, well, it has to do all this stuff. Well, it has to do stuff a lot like that, but if we designed it to do exactly that, you've over-constrained the problem while we're still in the cone of uncertainty. So you said it has to do exactly this when we haven't even built the system yet. Giant cone of uncertainty, and we haven't even started down the path yet. You're going to have to be here. Validated assumptions. We're working indirectly with a group right now, working with the U.S. Justice Department for the federal docketing system. And they're going, well, we're federal judges here. It's really hard for us to be directly involved in development. Well, guess what the clerks do? They're directly involved in development, and they actually attend sprint-level demos and a more collaborative model. So we can't approach a lean agile paradigm without any discussion whatever of the customer. And they're part of the solution in our world. So are suppliers, and they may or may not be agile. Also, as we work in a world that has a lot of waterfall stuff going on, more and more agile, is there an instant at which is there this point of singularity when everything's agile? Well, I doubt it, and if so, it's down the road a piece. So sometimes our suppliers deliver stuff to us in a more typically waterfall-like manner. Well, okay, sometimes they're incredibly lean, okay? And we can simply treat them as a release train, but they're still not us. They have to supply us what we need at that time frame. And here's an important notion as well. Suppliers don't just wake up and be lean if we've been telling them for a decade to do waterfall, and they're going to defend waterfall because that's their way of working. They built successful patterns based upon that. They became successful suppliers based upon that. So who's going to take the responsibility to help? Well, guess what? The Lean Agile Enterprises takes that responsibility, and you'll easily find some of your SBCs and thought leaders working with suppliers to explain the new way of working. The solution demo, objective evidence right at the solution level. The value stream has to iterate as well. By the way, the point is not for the teams to iterate or sprint or to execute a PI. The point is to have a solution at that point. So we need the solution to sprint, not just the teams. I already mentioned the spanning palette. Kind of last bullet here is to take a look at the portfolio level and this new connection to the enterprise, and it gives us a way to talk about a couple of things, not the least of which is how you want to scale this business. So maybe I'm a small business and I have a single, maybe I run 3-level safe, or even just one instance or 2 instances. A larger business might need 4-level safe, and the largest business use multiple instances of each. So that business has multiple safe portfolios, and that makes it a lot easier to think through in the largest enterprise how you deploy. You don't just Lean Agile budgeting across the entire portfolio. Well, of course you do, but you don't think about it that way. You think about budgeting within that construct. The business results are on the site. You can certainly find those in the case studies there. I think we have 22, 23 documented case studies now. We're happy for more. If you've got some good results with SAFE and you'd like to talk about it, we're happy to accept them. We don't write them, we don't edit them, we don't contribute to them, we simply publish them. And the results are frankly pretty astounding. There are companies from Valpak to Telstra to Discount Tire, John Deere, Nordea Banks, one of the largest banks in Europe. Quote, to see a waterfall program manager embrace SAFE after only 2 days of participating in a PI planning session is truly remarkable. Cool by me. One more thing, we just did a spike. So check out, first things first, this new spike. As we expanded SAFE, we also would like to simplify it. So we have a little research spike to say, what do you have to do to be successful? And I don't have time to belabor that because I really do want to take some questions here. But go to this blog post right here, Scaled Agile Framework, first things first, essential SAFE. And then also, if you want to know if you're doing essential SAFE right now, our partners here at Eliassen can talk to you about that. The next steps are really simple. There are no models for successful change management of any type where people don't know what they need to do. And we see, organizational change management all the time which says, please be different. Well, how? Okay. If you're a manager, a stakeholder, somebody hangs around value delivery, you're leading software development, we need you to lead. So there's training for that. If you're a change agent, if you're maybe a program manager who's directly involved, a chief system architect that's trying to influence the way the world works, an Agile working group, the change management vector implementing SAFE with SBC certification. You can find those courses worldwide. Eliassen delivers them as well. And of course, here's the big framework. It's free. If you go there, you don't have to log in. We're not going to spam you. We won't even know you're there. We'll capture the statistics for sure, but we're not going to start sending emails about, hey, did you see my latest offer to get your GMC under new factory warranty? That's not going to happen. There's no advertising on the site. There's only content. How do we make our money? Very simple. We sell courseware, and we teach people to teach the courseware. We are an enablement company for our partners. So with that, let's take a few questions and see what's on your mind out there.
Okay, great. We've got a couple questions here that have come in. One of them, what is MBSE, Model-Based Systems Engineering? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, MBSE is a fairly well-defined discipline in systems engineering that deals with the following problem. This is a big system. There are a lot of dependencies amongst the parts, molds, electronics, cables, supplier subsystems, etc. I need to know how the system behaves before I build it. I might need to model its thermal properties. I might need to just structure my feature and requirements hierarchy. I might want to tie my stories directly to my test and automate that piece. I might want to do a simulation of the timing of the software I'm about to build. So model-based systems engineering in kind of simple form is a sophisticated and yet soft way to deal with the fact that the cost of change in hardware and big systems is higher than with pure software. So we can't just build it and try it, right? I can't build it, let's send the satellite halfway up and see how that worked. Let's send it up without any optical sensors and see how that works. That doesn't work. So instead, there's a lot more simulation involved. And that's what MBSE is. And of course, a really good way to answer that question is to click on that icon and read about model-based systems engineering.
Okay, great. We have another one, Dean. How can Scaled Agile and ITLL, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library, coexist?
So they have different, these are different frameworks for different purposes. So I would say the sweet spot is as follows. It's not generally a wise thing to go into the IT shop, the deployment environment, where those people are being driven for at least 3 nines reliability, 99.98% uptime, and say, we have a brand new way of working, it's called Agile, and you should really try this. Now, it's a pretty good story, but it doesn't sell very well for good reason. They have hardened their system. They know how to operate in ITIL. The teams, on the other hand, they're operating differently. So there's 2 things that need to happen. Number 1, we need to start really thinking more seriously about DevOps, which is incorporating the people involved in deploying in the development stream and incorporating those in development in deployment. And that's DevOps as a function. Number 2, ITIL gets, they get change requests. They totally understand that, right? That whole system is based upon classes of service. By the way, it can be very Kanban-like. So you can take an ITIL shop and say, let's visualize the work, let's build a Kanban, let's plan together with the R&D teams now, because they're going to plan a PI and they're going to plan 4 2-week periods. And we get date stamps, and let's go meet with them as part of planning, and they're going to tell us that I need to stand up a new version of IIS on this server in the staging environment in 8 weeks. Now, they were going to tell me that before, but I can either wait until I get an emergency ticket that says stand up IIS, or I can actually start planning my work based upon the known work. So I wouldn't say you don't, quote, just blend them. You don't munge them together and say we have safe ITIL. But the intersection hangs around classes of service and the tickets that are necessary to get work done in deployment. And that and a combination of working more closely in your DevOps function will go a long way towards resolving the impedance mismatches of different ways of working.
Great, thanks, Dean. We've got a whole bunch of questions and we're almost out of time. One of the things I mentioned at the beginning of this was if we don't get to your question here, we will get to it afterwards in a written format. A couple other ones we've got here. How does SAFe 4.0 ensure that value streaming occurs at the team level? How does that value stream map to the team level?
So we start with the notion of what the value is, right? And you look at the larger picture of what we're, let me just give a couple examples. We have 2 value streams in our world here. We build a framework, and there are people involved, and the framework gets deployed. So we have a value stream that has new content, has its own DevOps function, and that value stream works only when a user can reliably access a web page in China. Okay, we have another value stream that's courseware. Well, those are different things. So a team, by the very definition of value stream, is already in one. The question is, does the larger enterprise recognize that those team activities want to be harmonized? So teams participate in value streams by virtue of an art. So they're just, they're already included. And a value stream is not a thing that SAFe says, let's invent a value stream. You already have them. What we do with SAFe is start to identify them and then understand, given that that's the way the value flows, how do we want to organize around it? And we build arts to do that. So the transition point is how a team participates on an art, not how the team participates directly in the value stream, because the art is the implementation of the value stream. The value stream is an intangible thing. It's getting a widget from point A to point B. Well, that's a tangible action, but it's a set of steps and activities. The software that's developed to get that widget over there, that's an art. So think more of the team on the art and think about the art realizing the value of the value streams. Value streams do not realize themselves. Arts realize value. Every team, every art is composed of a team.
Absolutely, everybody's connected to the value. One last question, Dean. There's been a couple of them around kind of RTE and Scrum Master. Is there a SAFe like Scrum of Scrums? You know,
There is, absolutely.
Maybe talk a little bit about the relationship.
Yeah, we typically call that an art sync meeting, but the Scrum of Scrums meeting is a ceremony. It's supported in SAFe, as well as, you know, the PO meeting. We call that art sync because typically they'll work together or in rooms next door. Scrum Masters do a good job of communicating some things, but they don't actually have the authority to adjust scope where the POs do. So Scrum of Scrums is one ceremony inside SAFe, but there are many more than that, right? The PI planning ceremony, the biweekly system demo, that's a system demo, is across all teams. So Scrum of Scrums is a great meeting. We use it. It's not its own process model. It's a key ceremony though.
Okay, great. Like I said, there's a lot more great questions. We can work to get those answers to you. If you took the time to write one, we'll definitely take the time to get you an answer. Dean, thank you very much for partnering with us on this.
Hey, thanks for having us.
As always. Great.
So goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.